welcome to this session, Safety in the Digital Age, Online Abuse with Shane Britton, the CEO of Social Protect. I'm really excited about it because he told me basically what he's going to say, really big insight. So thank you for being here, and I'll let you take it from here, Shane.
I would encourage anyone here to please reach out afterwards if you have any questions or you'd like clarification on any of the things that we talk about here, because this is an ongoing conversation. It's something that changes incredibly rapidly. We're seeing online abuse change from day to day, from platform to platform, and from different regions in the world. But the one thing that is for sure is that it's happening to everyone. Abuse is becoming ubiquitous, it's becoming really widespread, and it's not just for people with lots of followers, it's not just for people who post controversial views, it's happening across the board. Some of this is automated, some of it is very deeply personal, some of it's driven by a whole range of the same issues that we have in society, and it's reflected on social media. So, by way of background, my name is Shane Britton. I'm the CEO and founder of Social Protect, which is a technology company that aims to give solutions to online abuse. I'll talk a little bit about the company in a moment. Most of my background is counterterrorism. I worked for the Australian government as a counterterrorism intelligence officer, running covert operations around the world. I got to about 65 countries as part of my work with the Australian government before retiring from government service and setting up my own consulting practice. Um, the incident that I like to talk about and hate to talk about at the same time is that my nephew, when he was 13 years old, attempted suicide as a result of really severe cyberbullying. I'd read about cyberbullying, I'd read about online abuse, as we all have in different media, from sports stars to journalists and celebrities and politicians. But there's something about that that obviously hit so personal to me, and I went through a range of mixed emotions and really then trying to work out, well, why hasn't someone done something about this? And like I'm imagining so many of you have, I first looked to government. Why hasn't the government done something about this? And then when you look at government policy and legislation, it's so hard for a legislative instrument to keep up with technology. So then it was big tech. Why hasn't big tech done something about this? I'm not going to use this session to bash big tech, because some of the best people I know work in trust and safety for big tech platforms. But frankly, the negativity that permeates through social media at the moment is something that drives the algorithm, drives the engagement, drives eyes on the platform. So there's not a great commercial incentive to address those problems from big tech. And sometimes the problem has gone so far beyond what they're able to control that it's embedded in the structure of the very platform. So that's where I came up with the concept of Social Protect. And our basic premise is we want to put power back in the hands of an individual user. We want them to be able to control their own destiny, to have a shield in place where they're able to protect themselves from online abuse, to learn more about online safety and privacy, and to build the resilience and tools that they need to really get the benefits of the online space without some of the downsides that can obviously happen. So we have a range of solutions that cover that space. Now, over the last 2 years, we've worked with elite athletes around the world. I've got some examples to show you of some of the abuse that they've dealt with, that we've helped them manage in that time. And I want to really focus this session on some of the insights that we've had from working in this space. So, for example, let me start with a really big number. 1.17 million comments is what we deleted in 2024. Now, that covers everything from racism to sexualized commentary to offensive language to cryptocurrency scams to a whole range of really vile body shaming comments and everything else in between. Those comments perpetrated, the people who make those comments, the abusers, cover the broad social spectrum. There's a range of ages, genders, religions, locations. There is no one abuser template. Okay, everyone that we've seen has received abuse from a wide range of people from a wide range of locations. There's some underlying messages, particularly given the work we've done with elite athletes, where things like sports betting will drive some of that negativity. Someone loses money on a sports event, and for the first time in history, they have an ability to directly message the person that they believe is responsible for them losing that money. So they reach out and give some of that hatred. So, what I'm going to talk about is some of the things that we've found in that time, what we're doing to try and keep people safe. But really, it's an open call to everyone who's listening to this to say, we're here. We're a commercial company. We're set up as a commercial business, but our goal, the real driving goal that I set up this organization for, is to make sure no family is in the situation that my family was in. No one is in a position where someone is either bullied to the extent of self harm or attempting suicide or dropping out of a sport or stopping their online process because someone else is giving them that difficult time online. We want people to be empowered to have open conversations about it. We want to share this with anyone who needs it. And to emphasize that, firstly, we'll make sure that Social Protect is available to any of you that are listening. But I can also make the same public commitment I've been making since I founded this company, that Social Protect is freely available. It's free in the App Store for anyone to download right now and to start their protection today and to start their education journey today. And as long as I'm involved in the company, that's always going to be the case. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where we came from and what we're doing. So this is, let me just move my little thingy out of the way here. In terms of background, we've got a very clear mission statement of safeguarding people from online abuse, cyberbullying, and harassment. Our statement there in green is that we see this as a set of values that we want to make sure that we standing for something and standing shoulder to shoulder with people who have experienced abuse or who want to protect others from that abuse. Now, if you were in a workplace and your customers came in and commented racially insensitive comments to you, called you names, threatened your life, said horrible things to you face to face, there'd be consequences for them in saying that. Some of those things are criminal. Some of them are at the very least become a matter of litigation between you. For some reason, and that's largely because of the difficulty in investigating and carrying through with what we could do about it, the online environment is different. It's hard sometimes to identify the person who has made a comment. And then you have all of those jurisdictional issues of, well, I'm in Australia and the person made the comment from somewhere in Asia or America or South America or somewhere else. So then it's how do the police, how do law enforcement, how do regulators actually do something about that? That's what we're working to try and address. The fact that cyber safety and online safety and addressing cyberbullying is a multi jurisdictional problem. It's complex for law enforcement to be involved. They need specialist tools and techniques to do this, and it's really tough. So that's where we say this is a statement of values that no matter how tough it is, we're going to work with the people we can to help protect the people who need protecting and hold to account the people who do the wrong thing online. Now, I like to share this kind of funny search result here. This is what happens if you search for my name in Canberra. Now, Canberra is my home city. That's where I live. You'll see at the bottom, there's a funny article there. There's a person with exactly the same name as me who lives in the same city that I do, and he gets up to some mischief. I can promise everyone listening, it's not me. There's someone else with the same name. I think he's actually in jail right now for assaulting a police officer. This slide is a reminder to all of us that what happens online stays online, that there's always a footprint of what has taken place, and that can be both a benefit and a downside. So the benefit to that is if we're trying to understand who a person is, we can really look at their digital footprint. We can understand this is who you are and this is where you've come from. That can be a real positive when you're looking at potentially recruiting staff members, when you're looking at new appointments and all sorts of things. Okay. But there's downside. So if there is misinformation about you, if there is something that you've done wrong in a previous role, if there's mischief you got up to as a teenager, then there's records of that that survive the internet that are there for a long time. Now, why I share this is that firstly, I want the people that we're talking to know that we're not lecturing them. We're not telling them that you must be squeaky clean. You must never have done the wrong thing, that you need to always be appropriate and have never made a mistake online. Because when we put these things, when we put a phone in the hand of our children, we're giving them a device that is capable of doing things that are really dangerous to their safety, particularly the camera. That person can take a photo, it can be online within seconds, and that record can be online forever. So what we would always encourage people to think about is, well, if we are closed off, if we are saying to our children, don't make mistakes online, don't ever do the wrong thing. If you do, then there'll be punishments for it. They're more likely to try and hide what's taken place. And so we use this slide to kind of say, look, everyone's made a mistake, right? But by having an open dialogue, by being able to openly discuss these issues, then we can come to a sensible resolution. And our message to everyone we talk to is it's okay to have made a mistake, but work through it with someone you trust and try to understand what the implication is. Now, to give you a couple of stories, I was presenting at a school a few weeks ago, and I always like to scare kids a little bit in what we're doing. That might sound weird to say, but I like to give them some scenarios of what could go wrong. And so I said to the kids at this school, who uses Snapchat? And a range of kids kind of put their hand up, said, okay, who has sent a snap that they probably don't want their mum or dad to see? Some kids kind of have a laugh and put their hand up about it, right? And I've said, okay, who thinks that Snapchat actually deletes their snaps and doesn't keep a record of it? And there's some nervous faces. So then I said to the kids, okay, well, I have a record of some of the Snapchats that each of you have sent to each other in the past, and there's some really concerning content. And I'm going to show you that content. I'm going to put it up on a slide in front of all of your peers and show that content. If you're worried about something that you've shared in the past, come and see me in the next 2 minutes before I put these pictures up. And if you pay me, I'll remove those pictures from the presentation. And I have to tell you, friends, that kids came with cash in hand, willing to pay to remove Snapchats that I had never seen before. And it highlighted the point that we are creating a situation where people can be exploited, they can be extorted through some of the behaviors that have taken place in the online space. And when a child, a teen, an adolescent is growing up in this online social media connected world, we're creating vulnerabilities for them. And it's our responsibility to give them the training, the skills, the resilience to navigate those same vulnerabilities, not to pretend that it will never happen to them. Okay. So while I highlight that to show them how easily people can be extorted because of this fear that potential data leaks can create, it's also a reminder to them that there's things you can do to take control of your online presence, to put in place some sensible conversations, to be able to have people you can reach out to for support if you need it, and to really keep yourself safe in the online environment. Now, there's all sorts of examples here of what has gone wrong for people online. Now, this is a famous example where someone had zoomed into the eye of this particular performer, found out where she lived, and then assaulted her in her home. I can give a more close to home example. I'm currently at a conference in the Gold Coast in Australia, having presented to our Australian Olympic swimmers. And just last week, we were dealing with an Australian athlete who posted pictures of himself training on a beach near his house. Now, that athlete had been involved in sport for a long, long time, had a long history, very well liked largely. But in the last game he played, he made a mistake and the team lost as a result. There was an immediate backlash against him on social media. And as a result, there was a whole range of very angry people. Now, because he'd posted pictures of where he trained, people knew where he would be at a particular time of day. So one of those people showed up at the beach with a knife in their hand and wanted to attack him. Now, it's a reminder to all of us that we're broadcasting information about ourselves to the entire world through social media. Now, it's nice to think that we're sending that out to friends and family and people we care about, but we have to constantly remind our children and the people around us that it's not just people who care about us and that we care about, but there's a whole range of malicious actors who are using that for really nefarious purposes. Okay, now some of that is a targeted threat. Some of it is that someone wants to blame you for something that's gone wrong in their own life or a decision that they've made. Some of them might believe they have legitimate gripes. But if you're sharing content to the online world, we want you to make sure you have the skills, the capability, the understanding to remove any vulnerabilities that might be in there. Because before this incident, I don't know how many of us would have thought about, should I look at the reflection in my eye to see if someone could track down where I am? Now, this is a slide that is a little potentially confronting. This does have some specific examples of social media abuse that we've dealt with, part of the 1.17 million comments that we've removed in the past. So if you want to look away or not pay attention to this, I'd strongly encourage you to. It does have some references to threats and to self-harm. So please take care of yourself. And if you don't want to pay attention to this bit, please just take some space now. So these are comments that were made on Instagram. These were made to a professional tennis player and really show the level of vitriol and distinct hatred that comes from some of these comments. Okay, now this particular tennis player had lost a match and received a whole range of these type of comments. These are comments received by Australian athletes as a result of games that they were playing. It's a whole range of additional comments there around body shaming, particularly in the tennis space. And you'll see there's a whole range of other comments here. Now, I think these comments speak for themselves. I hope you feel the same level of horror and disgust that I certainly feel. I've been across most of the 1.7 million that we've deleted, and some of these still get you. You know, the idea of someone saying Chester Bennington yourself. For those who aren't aware, Chester Bennington was the lead singer of Linkin Park who committed suicide. So that's a subtle way of saying, I hope you kill yourself. Some of the comments here are less subtle than that. Now, these comments are bad, but multiply that volume out substantially. And, you know, the best example I can share with everyone here, we worked with Australia's breakdancing sensation, Ray Gunn, after the Paris Olympics. In one day, we deleted thousands of comments off her Instagram. On average, every day after the Olympics, for a period of about 2 weeks, we deleted thousands of comments in real time from her Instagram. Now, it's one thing for an athlete to deal with that, and there's a strong mental health impact, there's a safeguarding impact, there's a longevity of your career as an impact of that mental health side. But it's also all the other people who are reading this who are exposed to this level of vitriol and hatred that they just shouldn't be. That's why we have social protect in place. Now you imagine this times 1 million, and this is what we see in a year. Now, I don't know what it is that drives every person to make these sort of comments, but we've seen certain trends through sports betting. We've seen it with endemic racism, where someone feels the need to express their racist ideology through the internet. But the main thing we've seen is that these platforms have for the first time let a random member of the public interact with the people they're watching on TV. And some of the comments here in the past, if you wanted to say that to an athlete, you'd have to shout it out at a stadium. And I can guarantee most of these people are not saying this at a stadium. Now, one of the things that we do as an organization to help safeguard our users is then identify the people who are making these comments. So the people behind many of these throwaway accounts that are anonymous accounts. We use our particular expertise and investigative skills to try to identify who the people are and hold them accountable for what they've said. So, you know, incredibly concerning content. It covers a wide range of topics, you know, and this ranges from racism to sports betting related stuff to all sorts of death threats and everything in between. What we have seen around the world is that no one is immune to this. That once you reach the threshold of about 1,000 followers on most of the platforms, this type of content starts. Some of it is automated bot content, particularly things like cryptocurrency scams, or I'm sure you've all seen comments like "I'm feeling lonely tonight" that go to sex bots that have pornography links. The most recent thing we've seen is "I'm a millionaire and I'd love to share this money with someone," and all of that is just an attempted scam. So really what we want to do is firstly show that this type of content is not acceptable, hold people to account for what it is, and then educate people to deal with, here's some consequences of what you're doing, but also here's how you can protect yourself from that type of environment. Here's how to build your own walls, your own shield to make sure that you keep that sort of content at bay. And that's what we do at Social Protect. So there's a range of comments here about our impact. Now, one of the things that we get asked about a lot is if we're deleting comments from a social media page, particularly for someone like an athlete or a journalist or a politician who often have monetized that. So they might have a brand sponsorship where they need to post particular content and they want more followers, more interactions, more engagement, as you know, a lot of brands do on social media. Their concern is that if we delete negative content, that their engagement numbers will go down and they won't meet the metrics that they need to for some of those sponsorships. So their second point there is particularly interesting for us, that we see an average of 21% more comments when someone is using Social Protect. So even though we're deleting comments, we're seeing more comments happen. Now, we don't exactly know why, but our working theory is that when an environment is so toxic, you don't want to comment something positive for fear that those toxic negative people will then suddenly turn on you. And that becomes a real concern of, well, I don't want to say, good job, you played well today, when then suddenly people say, how can you think that? You're an idiot too. So that's part of our theory. We do see a substantial percent of new commenters coming to the pages when we have removed the abuse from that. So 21% is a good outcome. There's a whole range of other positive aspects clearly from this. And, it's probably the last one that I want to highlight the most, that what we're attempting to do is to protect the individual. But as an organization, we want to then work with other organizations in this space, with education institutions, schools, departments of education, governments, to say, here's all of our data. Here's what we've seen, obviously anonymized, so it's not linked to an individual person. Now, what can we do from an intervention perspective? How can we actually then use this to drive some protection of individuals? So, for example, in a school, we could say, here's when the abuse happens. It's this time of day, it's on this platform, it's using these types of words, and this is the impact it has on an individual. So then what's our advice out to families? It might be that if that abuse is happening at 2 a.m., then we need to understand who's making those abusive comments and what we can do to effectively shield the person receiving those comments from it, which of course, the underlying answer is get social protect. In the meantime, though, there's strategies like maybe a household turns the internet off between midnight and 6 a.m., if that's a time when some of this is happening. Now, what we've particularly done is really tried to make sure that that provides a feedback loop. So it's not just removing hateful commentary, but it's driving intervention, training, education strategies to say, all right, how do we deal with this? Now, there's a really interesting phenomenon that I want to talk about, and there's a whole range of statistics. I could talk all day about statistics, but I won't hijack the conference. For example, a female athlete is 300% more likely to receive abuse than a male athlete. And that's, for us, consistent around the world. But, one of the main things that we see is that an abuser often doesn't realize that their comment has been removed. Now, we remove them lightning fast, on average about 0.5 of a second from when they post the comment to when we delete it from the platform. But when someone does realize, there's some really interesting things that we see that they do. Now, in many cases, we'll see an abuser type an abusive comment, it gets deleted. They type the same comment, it gets deleted again. And then a portion of those people, it sits at about 40%, 45%, will then post either hello or test. And they're checking to see whether they're being blocked or deleted, or if the content is being deleted or removed. And those posts stay. They can say hello or test as many times as they want. And then we see this really interesting phenomenon where the majority of those people who see hello and test stay up will then post their original comment without the abuse. Now, that for us is mission success. That's teaching people that you could be negative, you can be critical, you can say what you believe, just don't be abusive. Don't cross the line into abusive commentary. So we're not creating positive echo chambers, because people can express negative sentiment. They can express disappointment. They can express any number of negative emotions. Just don't cross into the realms of being abusive about it. That to us is a really good social outcome for one of the things that we're attempting to achieve. Now, there's three things that we kind of capture in our pillars of protection. It's the idea of that automated deletion and proactive protection from abuse. We build inside our mobile app, we have an education hub where people can access online safety tips, privacy tips, all the things that they need to stay safe. Over the top of that education hub, we've put an AI chatbot where any user can say, here's the problem I'm having, what do I do? And get an immediate solution. And then we have the investigate component where we bring our expertise to play to kind of make people accountable for what they've done. So I'm almost at time, so I'm going to wrap it up there. I know that there's some chat comments coming in, so I might stop sharing and just see if there's any comments in anyone that's watching live. Otherwise, My details are part of the presentation. So if anyone wants to reach out and have an inquiry, work with us, partner with us, anything in that space, we want to keep people safe. So that's my final message to you. If you work in the online safety space and you believe there's some benefit in partnering with us, please reach out. Our entire mission is to make sure people are kept safe online. We'll do whatever we can to keep people safe all around the world. So thank you all so much for your time. Now let's see if there's any questions.
Yvette is asking, do you reach out to the all elite sports people or do they have to contact you?
A bit of both. I think when we first started, we had to do a lot of reach out and really connect with people to show who we are and what we're capable of doing. But gradually now people are learning about us and learning that there is a solution. And, there's this kind of old fashioned view that's starting to get its way out of elite sport. And a lot of that was, well, if you don't like it, just turn it off. Just throw your phone in the bin, just delete your Instagram account. It's your fault for being on there in the first place. And we like to address that with, no, there's a solution. There is a solution. And you can do something about this. And it's not okay. You shouldn't have to avoid it because people are horrible. So we provide that solution. So now we are starting to get that kind of reach out. What else we got?
James is asking,
Yeah, great question, James. Snapchat is top of the list for how we would like to protect people. Because of the way we've chosen to operate, we don't gather credentials. So when someone connects to our platform, we don't have your password, we don't log in as you, we don't have access to your account. We use what's called an API, a technical hook through the platforms. So our app has gone through an approval process through Facebook and through Google and through the range of platforms that we can connect to show them what we do and to get their approval for us to have access to the technical hooks for us to delete comments. Not every platform makes those technical hooks available, and Snapchat is one that does not. So we're talking to them to try and get access to an API, a technical hook, to be able to protect people. Until they provide that, there's not much we can do. We fill that gap by giving our users access to our education hub to say, here's where the settings are in Snapchat and what they mean. Here's how you can adjust your own, for example, geolocation settings, your DM settings, your public visibility settings, to choose your own safety threshold on that. But our goal is really to reach out to those platforms and say, please give us access. We want to protect people. School curriculums from Teresa. That's a really, really good question. Thank you so much for asking. We would love to. We're probably slightly early in our growth for that. We specifically decided on elite sports primarily because we wanted lots of data. They have a lot of followers. They have lots of social media interaction. They've also monetized a lot of the platforms. So they have a stake in being more protected. And we wanted to make sure that we're not inadvertently deleting comments that weren't abusive or finding ways that people might use the platform in a negative way. So we certainly have training built into the education hub in the platform for schools. So for example, we have an e-learning module in there called a student online safety kit. And that shows everything from there's a module called Pause Before You Share. There's one called Elephants in the Online Environment. There's a whole range of short 5 to 10 minute sessions that kids can go through and really learn some of our tips on what they can do. But we combine that with things from, for example, the Australian E-Safety Commissioner, from Ofcom in the UK, from NetSafe in New Zealand, from a whole range of organizations like that. Yep, partnership stuff is brilliant. I'd love to talk to anyone about partnerships. So please, Angelina, I think the details are available, right? Everyone's able to get access to our emails or to reach out to us. If not, it's socialprotect.ai is our website, and you'll find our contact form there, and you'll be able to get in touch with me directly. So if there's anything we can do to help out, please don't hesitate to reach. I want to thank everyone for their time. Really appreciate it. All the very best and stay safe online. Thanks, everyone.